like how you came to like where you are now and where you're from, how like you came to this point?
Well, we didn't even know a Jewish person. We were in the rural Texas, uh, studying, Christian people. We were happy. We wasn't discontented with the church. We didn't. We were just studying. And I could get into the details of the study, but what we started finding out is that the Jewish people of the New Testament were still keeping the Shabbat, still keeping kosher, still keeping, and we had thought that this had all been done away with. We found out that it wasn't done away with, and that we were just misunderstanding what was going on. But this kept leading us into going further and further and further into study, and we actually studied our way out of it all by ourselves, a small group of people, and just by studying that and came across the 7 laws of Noah, that everything we needed spiritually was already set for us in Torah. We found out that God considered us, the non-Jew, when He created the world, and when He wrote the Torah, and that we were included into that. And the church teaches us that God didn't think about you before the New Testament. God didn't consider you, God didn't care about you, not until the New Testament. And we studied our way out of it, and we found that that was not true, that God had always considered us, that there was always grace, mercy, salvation, everything. The Torah was complete. We don't need anything else outside of Torah. And that's how we came out of it. And then we realized that the other was a misinterpretation, and that it wasn't understood correctly. It had 1,500 years of confinement with the monks, and it's not even a good commentary. Okay, it's nothing. But that doesn't really ask the question of why we were led to think this. What was drawing us in this direction? Because it's not only me. We found a whole nother group in the same town that I lived in that was doing the exact same thing at the same time. Then there's people, and we wind up finding out that within a 100-mile radius of us, and this is rural Texas, there was 60, 70 people doing this. What's going on? And the conclusion, the only thing that I can come up with to think about is how the Jewish people are coming back into the land, and how they're becoming more holy. And the land is becoming more holy. And you're building here, and you're farming here, and everything is going on. The reason that I'm here today is not because I think Torah is this or that, or it'd be neat to be, connected with the Jewish people. I'm here because the holiness of the Jews has brought me out. And it's coming out all over the world, South Africa, Kansas. But this is what's happening. And it's because the Jew is taking his place in the land. The Jew is becoming holy, and that holiness and that light is reaching us.
Jews don't realize that the 6-Day War in 67, the world through Christianity believes in the Bible, so to speak. So when they saw in the news that the Jews wiped out everybody in 6 days and they conquered the Temple Mount, and there's pictures of Israeli soldiers up there, to the non-Jew, that's like fulfillment. The Jews are in their land, and they're really doing it. We don't view it that way. I remember learning in Hebrew school about the 6-Day War. It was just like, okay, that's nice. But for the rest of the world, it's a big, big deal. So as I don't know about you growing up, but again, for me, I wasn't impressed. I was taught not to be impressed. But for the rest of the world, 7 billion strong, they are very impressed by that, and it draws them out. You know, Jews are news. And so we were in the old city of Jerusalem today. How many non-Jews coming through there? Thousands. Thousands coming to see what's going on in the land of Israel. So a Jew's Bal Tshuva search or whatever is different than a non-Jew's. We're born into it. You know, I had to grow into figuring out why there was gefilte fish in the refrigerator. But for these guys, they don't have that. So for what draws them out is something totally different. And just one more side note, what Russell also didn't know, how many of you guys ever heard of Vendell Jones, the father of the Noahide movement? So Indiana Jones, they say Indiana Jones was made after Vendell Jones. He was a Noahide archaeologist. Russell had the privilege of studying with Vendell and the greater group for a while. So Texas is like, if New York is Jews, Texas is the Noahide. And there was a whole area, and they would go on TV and radio back in the 80s and make this Noahide message. Vendell was very connected to Israel with the archaeology department, all these different things. So he had that. He was receiving that the knowledge of Jews in the land, all this stuff going on, and then he'd go back to America and tell people, and it was mind blowing. Remember, Star Trek in the 60s was mind blowing. It didn't take much to blow people's minds. So it was mind blowing, and they got into it. And what I was saying is they found out worldwide it was happening for different reasons. Go ahead, sorry, just a little interjection.
Okay, so that's the bigger thing that's happening. It's not how that someone found their way out. It's what's drawing us out, and what's healing the land, and what's bringing a redemption to the farthest corners of the world, to the wilderness, as I call it. And that's what y'all are doing here in Israel. Being Jews, being holy, making the land holy. And what I'm saying is, we recognize that. We didn't even know to recognize it, but Hashem allowed us to recognize it. And so now we found our place within that, within Torah. And that's what's coming about with people talking about Ger Toshav and B'nai Noach and all these different things. This consciousness is all coming up because of that. So, Chuck.
Our story is much the same, just on the other end of the world. So we were searching for truth, basically. Myself and my wife, and we really started looking around, asked questions. I mean, we come out of the church, so that's our only frame of reference. So I'd go to the local pastor, and I'd say, look, I've turned to God, and this is the way you showed me to do it, through this guy on the cross. So I find a lot of things that don't match up, and they never could answer me. So it led me to move out, and we started looking and searching, and we realized that the Torah was given to the Jews at Mount Sinai. So I need to go knock on the Jews' door to find out about God. And that's how we started going.
How did you go about that?
Sorry?
How did you go about that?
How do I go about that?
How did you?
How did we go? Okay, we didn't have access to Jews physically. We went to websites, Chabad.org, Aish.com, Torah.org, and we got all our teachings from there. And like Russell said, we studied ourselves out of the clipper, out of the...
Have you guys ever heard of Yossi Mizrahi? So he's the Kiruv guy. He'll go on and say, like, I have, 5 million watching my videos. 4 million of them are non-Jews. And they're all over the place. So a lot of the Kiruv guys on the internet who have big numbers, a large amount of them are non-Jews searching the internet like all the time. So it's one.
Right, so it took us about 17 years to get to this point. So It took quite some time. It was 2013, Pesach 2013, the whole thing was just so clear. So we dropped the New Testament, we dropped JC, and we said, right, this is what we're going to do. The main Noah, now we've got to see what's going on. And now you're getting to the Jewish world, and you say, oh, well, very few people actually know about the name Noah. Yeah.
So how does the community of the Bnei Noach run? Is there youth programming? Is there an education system?
No, it's small. It's
There should be in the future.
It's scattered and small. So all we have is a study group in our town.
Right. And those study groups are all over the world. There's little groups everywhere. There's not yet big communities. Texas, I think, is the only place. That's what I'm saying. Texas is New York for Jews, right? I find a big Jewish community, New York. But there's little groups, 5, 6, 10 here, all over the place, and they're coming out all over the internet, and they're following. It's the same pattern. They're going to find the rabbi, whether it's a Chabad locally, someone online. They're going to go there, and they're all trying to just keep coming out. They're not just stopping. They're coming out, and that's really where we're at currently. We're not done. It's at the point now where it's like obvious and known to rabbis that work there in the field, so to speak. And what the lack is not enough people know. And I'll say it in a little bit of a better way. The people that know the Torah of it are not in the field, and those in the field don't necessarily know the Torah of it. It's like, just a random kiruv guy who's trying to pull people out, just to go to a shir. The problem is that the Torah for the non-Jew is like brisk, right? And so it's a really tough thing to pull off, because you can't just feed them little, like a Baal Tshuva. You can give. It's not doesn't. I remember when I was a Baal Tshuva, right? It didn't take much to get me going, and all they had to do was say, "Hey, you want to come for Shabbos?" And I'm in. You can't just invite these people for Shabbos and it's a different path of kiruv, and without getting the Torah spot on, it's very easy to mess it up and just not do anything. I just want to say one example of what's going on by Jacques also. I took an Uber home from, I was meeting a Jewish family in Cape Town. I took home an Uber, like 1 a.m. And he says to me, obviously we're in yarmulke and everything, but he says, are you from Israel? Yeah. He says, okay. I said, well, why do you want to know? He said, because I'm not going to charge you for the Uber. I said, why? He said, because the Bible says, those that bless my people shall be blessed. And I want to be blessed. I'm like, wow, okay. So these kind of examples happen a lot. I mean, I've been to Cape Town twice to meet up with Jacques and his group. And we've seen, obviously, since I'm a Jew with Jacques, I'm wearing a yarmulke, right? So Jacques has a bit of a different experience when I'm there, running around with him. And we've had experiences. Non-Jews are saying, Shabbat Shalom. Things like that. Like, they're out there. Like, the whole world's ready about it and talking about it, but we're not looking for it and anticipating it. But it's happening more and more.
Is this a new thing? Like, how long has this been?
No, non-Jews have always been interested. The problem is, obviously, Christianity was very strong for a very long time. And we were in the shtetls for a very long time. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe teaches about this. You weren't going to get to the shtetl so easily without being killed, right? Either we would kill them or they'd kill. I mean, you don't do that. So a lot of it happened through business. The Jew and the Christian would do business, and it would still be under the auspices of like shituv. It wasn't kosher. So with the internet in the modern era, we left the shtetls. We're now exposed in the cities, and we're on the news. We're on TV. Again, they didn't know Jews. Even today, there are non-Jews that don't know Jews. But today, you can get to Israel, you can visit, and online, you're going to meet a Jew, and they view a Jew as someone like, holders, guardians of the faith, so to speak. So we're all coming together. My co-author of one of my other books wrote one of the first Noahide books in the world, in the modern era, whatever. So that was like 1985. And we were friends from 2000 until today, but he would say that the Noahides that would reach out to him would write snail mail. So that's how it was done. It couldn't go anywhere. But when there was like online yeshivas, there was something called a virtual yeshiva in 2007-8, and these guys flocked to it. And the internet with Skype and everything, Facebook, it's just a massive growth because now you have the speed and access to do this thing that never could be done. But the interest was always there.
Was it like 100 years ago?
What, beginning?
Like this.
The current thing, I would say, first of all, the 20th century with Jews returning to their land, Zionism was a big part of it. Think about it. My grandfather was in Steubenville, Ohio, as a dentist. My mother told me she remembers parades in town for Zionism. My family comes from the Ohio River Valley Jews, right? So they would have parades of Zionism, 1940. So what do you think the Catholics were thinking? Because there were a lot of Catholics in her town, right? That's going to be mind-blowing. The Catholics are learning about one thing, and the Jews are out marching with an Israeli flag, go Zionism. That didn't happen in Poland, right? So then you have World War II. And obviously the Shoah and everything, that goes without saying. Pious Gentiles, saving Jews, that's a very big thing. Fast forward to the Six-Day War, big deal. Then Vendell Jones, the father of the current model, was, what was he, a Baptist what? Baptist preacher, and very charismatic guy. That's why he's considered the leader of it. He passed away in 2010. He goes to the Lubavitcher Rebbe for a bracha, gets in with the Israeli government, and he got a lot of things going. So Texas was hot, TV, radio, making no hides. Then I would say he got real strength in the 80s. Rabbi Yoel Schwartz of Dvar Yerushalayim, Rav Horowitz, they got things going. A lot of things got going. Books were being written. So figure the 1980s, it got normal. Like you could leave the church and find people and not be excommunicated. By the 90s, the Temple Institute's going to get involved. Like Chaim Richmond and a lot of that kind of organizations are going to go and get involved. So by late 90s, there's a pilot trip to Jerusalem where they all sign their names, a declaration of B'nai Noach, and then again by 2000 it's over. It's a free-for-all. You can destroy Christianity just by looking on the internet. It just by 2000 it leapfrogged everything, and now it's happening at such a fast rate. We talked to Moshe Kopensky today, who owns a store called Shorashim in the Iratika Yerushalayim, and he's like a no-hide personality. And he's saying every day, and you go hang out in the Old City for a day, you'll see it. He said he figured out 10,000 people walk by his window, and he brings them in to talk to them. They're leaving Christianity more and more and more every single day. But they don't go right from Christian to Ger Toshav. So there's a lot of fringe in the middle that I'm not a part of, and I am firmly against it. But the process is as they become fringe, they're leaving things behind. So maybe, Yeshu's not God forbid, but maybe he's a Messiah that didn't fulfill his task. Then they say, that doesn't make sense either. Now, so maybe we should, just believe in Judaism. And they keep going until eventually it doesn't make sense, and they drop it all, and they're ready, to say, okay, that's it. I'm Ben Noach. I'm done with all things church. And then it just is a process. And it never ends. Just like your tshuva and your Yiddishkeit never ends, right? You're always going to do more and start out more and more and more. They want to get more and more not Nachri, right? They want to leave Nachri and get Ger Toshav. And then where that goes. So some will convert, some don't. We don't proselytize. Some will remain B'nai Noach. They say, do your 7, go to heaven. Right? And it's up to, it's at that point, it's like anything in Yiddishkeit. Are you Breslov? Are you Chabad? Are you Litvish? What are you? And you find your way. They're finding their way. And they're not Jewish. They don't want to be Jewish. And like Russell was saying, the Torah comes complete with the non-Jew inside. How many of you have seen the non-Jew in Torah? And the Chiddush is, the more you learn and you look for it, the non-Jew is everywhere. I mean, how many of you guys have learned with me have already seen that? Right? It's everywhere. And usually, I remember being in Yeshiva, when everyone would say Akum, you're trained to not look, right? Okay, the Akum, yeah, whatever, good, But when you stop and look, you'll find out there's a lot of material of the non-Jew in Torah. And it's not for us. I'm not so looking to become a Ger Toshav from the status of Akum, right? But it's in there. And think about Judaism in your head. right? It's infinite, right? Everything is Jewish. So every moment that you're a Jew, there could be a non-Jew with you. You're in a restaurant. Is the guy cooking the food an Akum? Is a Bishul Akum? And we had, to quote Rav Aaron Soloveitchik. So the sugya goes like this. It started Od Yisrael Yosef Ben Yichai, the Sefer of Rav Aaron Soloveitchik. There's a Gemara that says when a non-Jew dies in your front yard, what do you do with that non-Jew? Rashi says you bury him with the word im, ayin mem, im Yisrael. So what's the next question? Which non-Jew? That's always the question. You want to charge ribbies to a goy. Which goy? You want to eat dinner with a goy. Which goy? You want to have a goy come over and drink wine. Can you? Which goy? So is it a goy? Is it an Akum Russia? Is it a Ger Toshav? Is it a Nachri Chassid? Which Ger Toshav? Does he have Kabbalah? Does he not have Kabbalah? Does he keep 7? Did he reject Shituf? Which non-Jew? Which level of non-Nachri is he? Or which level of Nachri is he? You see, it's an infinite question. Good. Any questions? Good.
So like in Judaism, we're always looking for like being closer to God, and we have different systems for that. We learn Torah, we learn about philosophy, we daven, we do things like that. Is there some kind of system within Noach, or is it kind of just every man for its own?
One of the things that because there is no system.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we gave up our system. We were isolated from our families. We gave up our traditions. Our journey out was so stripping our inner soul just out of us to where we literally had nothing. And we had to stare into the abyss of atheism because there was nothing. By the blessing of Hashem, that's what he brought in Torah, when we absolutely had nothing. Now, so what we had this problem. We still didn't have any tradition. We still didn't have any way to keep the family together. Our families were breaking up and all this stuff. And, I had people that were asking me questions. What could I do? And the only thought I came up with, I said, how did the Jewish people stay together with all the persecution and all the things that they went through? What kept it the exile? What was the one thing? And I said, it was the Shabbat table. And what we began to do, not as a Jewish Shabbat, but on a Friday night, we would sit at the table and we would study Torah and we would pray and we would read Psalms. Not to be Jewish, not to do anything else, but just to survive and to have something that connected us with God. When we did that, our entire world changed. Our mind opened up. The Torah became self-explanatory. We knew it. Just by doing this one thing, just by bringing that together and doing that. So within that context, from that precedent, we do other things here and there. They say, well, it's taking on extra mitzvah. It's connecting to the consciousness of Torah, the same as by the example of the Jewish people. This is how you did it.
Why do you wear a yarmulke? And what does it say on it?
This one says Ger.
When Russell and I first met, he would say when they would study Torah, he would say, out of respect, he would wear a head covering. And he says, if you're gonna be a non-Jew, it better say Ger on there.
It's kind of right here because it not only reminds us that there's something over us, but and to respect of the Torah. We learned that from the Jewish people. We learned how to respect Torah from them. That's what we're doing. We're not doing extra mitzvahs. We're not trying to be Jewish. We're not trying to take over everything. We're just trying to learn from example and apply those examples as it fits in Waco, Texas.
Do you wear a yarmulke when you work?
No.
You wear it anywhere else except for a place of?
If a house of worship or a synagogue or something like that, or when we're studying Torah or praying or doing something like that. That's the only time to wear it.
Right.
I wouldn't wear it outside because it would be misleading. If for some reason I felt connected to wear a tzitzit, then I say I don't. But I said if I did, and that mitzvah somehow connected me to Torah, I wouldn't wear it on the outside. I would wear it. I don't have to show the world that I'm wearing tzitzit. You have to show the world you're wearing tzitzit. I don't have to. So I wear it inside, and whatever that does. That's the kind of the way we look at these at these mitzvahs. It's connecting us to Torah. It's connecting us to the Jewish people and the Torah, which is our, to answer your question, that's how we connect ourselves to Hashem. We are more separate, further away, and we have to find something that connects us. We don't have the mitzvah. We don't have the commandments that doesn't. And so just like all of the great patriarchs, who did Abraham have? Eliezer.
There's the Ger non-Jew is all through the Chumash.
Y'all are good with my accent.
Huh? Yeah, Tevi. Yeah.
So the same thing, but all throughout the Torah, you're going to see the Jew with the non-Jew in these relationships.
King David and Aravna, classic. There's a lot of classics. I want to say one thing too. In the outreach to the non-Jews, it's if not entirely, it's almost entirely Chabad and Breslov, for obvious reasons, right? Also Bali Tshuva. Who does the most? A lot of Chabad and Breslov. I no longer call it Lubavitch. I take Russell's pronunciation, Lubavitch. What's interesting though is when I got into Ger Toshav, just my own studies of it. What got me over the hump was my Rosh Kollel back in Cleveland, Rabbi Katz, who tells, he said, "Did you look in the Brisker Rav?" There's a famous Brisker Rav on Ger Toshav. So that's what led me to the Soloveitchik Sefer and with Moshe. And so when we saw Ger Toshav through the words of Rav Aaron, and we as in the guys I work with and myself, that we are interested in Rav Aaron Soloveitchik's message of how he views mankind. Because the Chiddush is, Russell found out he's a brisker. when he the teachings of Chabad Breslov didn't not that he likes it, right? But it didn't explain how Ger works. Now in the end that's not true. Chabad and Breslov do. It's just not being in the front lines of the Kiruv world. I told you guys that came to my house, that the Rebbe's Sikha is like one of the top Ger Toshav pieces in existence. So it's not true. But that Sikha is very brisk, right? It's a brisk type Sikha. So when Russell saw the Soloveitchik work on Ger Toshav, it was funny, we realized that brisker Kiruv is what works for the non-Jew. They like, that's the lumdus of it, but not like a Jew. Ger Toshav only works through lumdus. You can't get it without it. It doesn't work, right? Copy paste Rashi's Iker terms, and the proof of the pudding is look at the Rebbe. Rebbe's all yay, mystical powers, whatever, right? But that one sikha, brisk style Ger Toshav, and the whole Ger Toshav Torah is that kind of academic approach. And these guys, they just, I don't know. What do you think about that, about brisk?
Yeah, it's they're the only ones that seem to be able to really identify and who we are and what we're doing.
Right.
No one else, the Boblich or whatever. And I've tried to say it other ways. This is the way that works. Okay? You just don't connect it. Even though I have great admiration for the Rebbe and all of this thing, it just you don't connect with it. And you don't feel that connection back. But It's like with the brisk, the teaching and the understanding of the Torah. It's like they get it, and I can connect with
Right.
that.
When I met Rav Moshe in Chicago, it was like, yeah, Ger Toshav, of course, right? You know. When I met Rav Ginsburg here, when I met with him at first, he's like, "Oh, Ger Toshav, it's so cool," you know. So it's like, wow, you're not okay. You didn't kill me. First guy didn't strike out. So a lot of the Chabad shluchim just okay. Brisk learning's not their forte. Everyone's got their thing. So Russell says to me, if we could get Lubavitch behind this, it would be a great thing because they're obviously into the 7 laws. He says, can't you find where the Rebbe just said Ger? So I said, no, it doesn't exist. I'm telling you. So these guys don't have a way of getting into your kishkas. So I have Otzar Chachma, right, a hard disk, and I searched, and I found Rabbi Garlitsky. You know Garlitsky, Crown Heights. So he's a famous Lubavitch. I called him up. He's got a say for like Mashiach and Gula or something like halacha, whatever it was. I saw he talked about Ger Toshav. So I called him up and I said, blah blah blah. My name is David Katz. Blah blah blah. He said the source for Ger Toshav and the Rebbe is L'Kutei Sichos Chelik Lamed Aleph Parshas Mishpat. And I said, okay, that's interesting. So how do I get Lubavitchers to say that? He says, tell them the Rebbe said it. So I've been trying to tell them the Rebbe said it to this day, and that's the one sikha they don't learn. So I was in Crown Heights on a tour, and I went to Kahat, and I bought the sikha, and Russell was right. The Rebbe said it. Back then I thought it was a big chiddush, and it's not a big chiddush. Everybody talks about Ger Toshav. It's like, who doesn't? Right? Rabbi Nachman talks about it in Likutei Moharan. It's all through Sifrei Halacha, as I've shown in my shirim here. Right? It's in Kabbalah, it's in Chassidus, it's in Midrash, it's in Agartha, it's in Shas, it's in Mishnah, it's in Gemara, it's in the Rishonim, it's in the Achronim. No one doesn't say it. So you know how, I think you guys can attest to this. How many of you have ever been to Gemara shir? Right? How many of you have tried to give your pshat in the Gemara shir? How many of you have tried to continue giving your pshat in that Gemara shir? To the point where you're starting to make it up like, it could be us, sir. Right? And I was like, no, it says it right there. But it could be, but it's not. And then Sugya falls apart, right? And you're like, okay, I guess we got to take the other Mahala because this didn't work out. So the Ger Toshav Sugya just keeps getting more and more true. Meaning you find a kernel of it, and when it just keeps growing. Once you get the core of the Sugya, you can apply it everywhere. That's how Sugyas work. Right? When you get the core of the sugya, you can apply it everywhere. So whenever you see Ger Toshav, it's going to work out if you stick to the formula. You don't have to start putting Band-Aids all over the sugya. It'll always work out. But you have to know the sugya. Any more questions for these guys? Good.
I was wondering, if you don't mind me asking. So I guess like the way you put it, you feel like a really strong connection to Judaism, to the Torah and everything. So I guess what makes you identify more with Ger Toshav and with, I don't know if this is the right way to put it, I guess. I don't know if identification is the right word, but identifying more with Ger Toshav than with, or B'nai Noach, than with Judaism as a religion, I guess. That's converting. I guess.
Yeah. You got a question?
What's the draw?
You're just coming out of the church, right? You can be B'nai Noach, you can be Ger Toshav, or why don't you just convert to Judaism? Why? What pick? Where do you go and why? Why do you pick one? Why do you go with one way? Just convert.
Well, yeah, and
That's what most Jews are going to say. Man, you come this far, you got the Yamaha on, just convert.
Well, there's a lot of things that I could say here, but I want to try to just keep it very simple. And the idea is that not everyone in the world is going to be Jewish. Not everyone is intended to be. If not, they would all be Jewish. There has to be a purpose for the non-Jew. If Hashem made you to be a priest into the nation, the light into the world, whatever, this whole thing, there has to be someone for you to be a light to, and a priest of, and all of these different things. He set you and gave you as guardians over the Torah to guard it for whom? Yourselves. You have it. You're not guarding it for you, you're guarding it for me. You're giving it to me. You're studying in the yeshiva for me, and for the world, and for the redemption of the world. And I have chosen to be a part of that world in order to receive that blessing from Abraham, from you. And that's just where I feel like I'm at. You know, to convert is a very spiritual thing. It comes from within the soul. If I had that, I would convert.
I guess, like, just to clarify, it's like you don't really feel, not necessarily not ready, but like you don't feel like you don't identify with that.
I don't connect with this idea of converting and moving to Crown Heights. I just don't see it doing that.
So why not Ben Noach?
Ben Noach is too benign. There's something more here. There's more of a spiritual connection in there that just the name Noach is. I'm just out here. I'm doing just these 7, and I'm just being a good guy, and I'm not. There's a lot of people like that.
Rav Soloveitchik, I think, defined it the best in our research doing that project. The fundamental easiest way to say the difference between Ben Noach and Ger Toshav is that Ger Toshav is careful with the 7 and a Ben Noach isn't. Some people want to be careful with the 7 and some don't. Why do you want to be careful with the 7?
It's basically because I think that's the intention Hashem had for me. The 7 are 7 negative commandments. We don't do nothing. There's nothing to do. But the way I was taught is these 7 commandments is so that I don't destroy the world as I live here. I'm not destroying this world, and they give us 7 things not to do, not to mess anything up. Just don't mess it up. You're here, but just don't mess it up. Just do these 7 and don't mess it up.
So just don't eat the limb of a living animal, right?
Just don't eat that. Just don't do that. Just do whatever you want to do. Just not that. Okay?
So what does it mean to be serious about not eating the limb of a living animal? How serious can you possibly be about that?
Well, you have a consciousness of eating. The non-Jew doesn't have a consciousness of eating. They eat anything that don't eat them first. You know what I'm saying? They don't have a consciousness of it. Now, when you have the idea of the mitzvah of not to eat a limb of a living animal, you now have a consciousness of eating. We didn't have that. We didn't have that. Christianity doesn't have that. Nothing has that. But we do have it now. And we got that from the Torah.
It's a matter of internalizing, not just doing.
Yes, it's how do I, in other words, how do I say it, to spiritually know what you're physically doing.
Consciousness.
Consciousness. That's what the Torah brings us. It brings it to the Jewish people, and it brings it to the nations as well. And we've lost that. We've lost that consciousness. And you got to remember, when the Jewish people were exiled from the land, we were exiled as well spiritually. We are as lost as the Jewish people were in exile. And the Jewish people suffered from it, but we suffered from it spiritually as well. We suffered spiritually. And now now that Israel is coming back, and the Jewish people are coming back, and the holiness is coming back into the world, into the land of Israel, we are now...
There's an Or Goyim going out. The light to nations is going out. And it's happening everywhere.
And the nations are being healed spiritually from this void that we have. Listen, you're living in a time of a phenomenon here. And I've come all this way to share it with you, that this is happening in the world, and it's very powerful. You're in a very, very special place. You're a very special people, and you're in a special place, and it's impacting the world. Doesn't look like it, I know, when you watch TV or something like that. But let me tell you, there's a spark out there, and Hashem willing, it'll just come and turn into a flood.
Yeah.
In terms of study, what do you usually do? I mean, do you study usually Torah or philosophical works or other types of learning?
We are probably the most well-versed non-Jews at the Leshem, the Ramdu, the Ari. We study a lot of Kabbalah. We study Torah, the Gemara. We have rabbis that help us, like Rabbi Katz, but other rabbis that help us and bring us through. And
Keep in mind, what the issue of learning Torah to a non-Jew is when they learn like a Jew. When they learn is, what do you say, like interested towards you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the things that only a Jew would learn, they're not interested in. So there's parts of every part of Torah that the non-Jew, it's relevant for them, they're interested in it. So if I were to give a great mystical shear of Erevin, would you want to hear about that? Probably not. Not interested. So the parts they learn are the parts that really are shayak for them. So not only is it mutter, but it's practical. I mean, they're not looking to be impractical. See what I'm saying? So it might sound like, wow, who can you learn that, or who learns that? But they learn the parts. Like, for example, Kabbalistically, I would say the entire thing that dominates their headspace is the Tikkun of Adam, right? The repair of Adam, it was called, right? Now, is that not a very nation thing to learn, right? The repair of mankind? And a lot of Jewish text, mysticism, deals with the repair of mankind. So that's what they like to learn. But the parts that are, how to have kavanah of tzitzis, they're not learning that. That doesn't interest them.
the way when we look at Torah, and we bring something to Rabbi Katz or to another rabbi that we're working with, and I guarantee they'll always say, once a week, maybe twice, I never thought of that. I never looked at it like that. I never looked at it from that perspective, because what we're showing them is the view of Torah from the nations.
When you learn Torah, I've said this a million times, you're going to look at a pasuk. We did this on Shabbos. Ready? I picked up a random pasuk in the Chumash to show a point to the crowd, and I came to the pasuk where Abraham called to Hashem, right, the God of the universe in English. Right? Y'all know the pasuk? We just had it. So I looked up the pasuk, and now that sounds like an amazing pasuk, does it not? And Abraham called out to God, God of the universe. Would you all agree that pasuk is about God? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay? It's God. Like, whatever's going on there. So Russell's going to look at that, and he might say, from an angle of something about God. When the Jew does it, what's the first move you're going to do? Rashi. Rashi's going to say, hey, did you go to Sota, Yud Amud Aleph, and Beis? No, Rashi had never thought about that. So Rashi tells you Pshat, and I thought, you know what, let's look up in Sota and see what it is. So there's a here. We always source, don't we? If it was here, I don't know if it's here. So think about it. It's Shabbos, and we're looking at the pasuk, and there's a machlekes. The Sota or Sukkah? One second.
Right here.
Wait. Oh, I'm in the Dharma. Hold on. It always happens. There it is. Sukkah. Okay, so they're going to talk about the Eshel in Beersheva. Forget the Chumash, forget Rashi, we're in the Gemara. Right? Copy paste, correct? So we want to know, they planted in Eshel and Beersheva. Amar Reish Lakish, Melamish Atse Pardes, Venatabo Kol Mine Megadim. Right? It's an orchard. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Nechemiah, Chadam er Pardes, Chadam er Pundak. Bishlam Elaman Amar Pardes, Haina dos Iviyata. Elaman Amar Pundak, my Viyata, Kadex Iviyata, Oile Aptanu. Vayikra, then it says, Vayikra Hashem, Sham, B'Shem Hashem, El Elohim, Amar Rish Lakish, Al Tikrei Vayikra, Ela Vayikroye. Now, what is the Gemara talking about? Hey, that Eshel, what was that Eshel going on over there? Right? All about the Eshel. Was it an inn? Was it an orchard? Then they brought the pasuk. Why? They planted something, and that around that thing, don't say Abraham called out to God. They called out to God. Abraham brought them to the Eshel and got them to pronounce God. Do you notice what's missing from that sugya? God. They were talking about the Eshel. They planted an Eshel. What was the deal with the Eshel? What was the Eshel? And around that Eshel, people talk. They would proclaim God. But what happened to the pasuk? Abraham called to God. Where's the pasuk? That's called the Pshuto. There's a Gemara that has nothing to do with the Chumash and nothing to do with the pasuk. It's a question in Talmud about an Eshel. This is not a Chumash I'm holding. It's a Gemara. Rashi wrote a parish called the Pshuto. Rashi said, oh yeah, that's that sugya from Sota, and he puts it onto the Chumash. You read the pasuk in the Chumash, and you find out all about an Eshel. And that's fine. But did Rashi give us pshat? No? Well, everyone will say, yeah, Rashi said he only comes for the pshat, right? Only he never said that. Every time Rashi said that, he didn't. He said, I come lefi pshuto. Never in all of Rashi will he ever say he comes for the pshat. It's always, I come for lefi pshuto. What is lefi pshuto? He takes from the Gemara and puts it on the pasuk. There's anything wrong with that? No. But just don't call that pshat. Call that lefi pshuto. So when you're reading Rashi on that pasuk, you just now learned about the Eshel. You did not learn about God, meaning what Avram called out to God. If you want to find out about that, then look in another parish. Rashi brought you from Sota. Now, is it godly? Yeah, it's very godly. But it's not the pshat of the pasuk, Avram called out to God. So we are trained to go right to Rashi. This is who we are. Now, you can find other perushim. Go open the Mikros Gedolos. I promise you one of them will talk about God. We're not a nation without God. It just happens to be our first move, our 1A, might not be the pshat. It's going to be Rashi, lefi pshuto. Russell doesn't know to go to Rashi. He's not trained Yeshiva to go look at Rashi. He's going to look at the pasuk, and he's going to think about God. I'll tell you where Russell might go. He might have an English translation of Onkelos at home, and Onkelos is where you're going to get pshat from. But in yeshivas, it's just not always 1A to go right to Onkelos. We don't think that way. But is it usher? Like you just don't go to Onkelos? No one would say don't go to Onkelos. We just don't, unless you do. They don't know not to. So they're going to view a question from a different angle, from a different point of view, and when we hear it, it sounds weird. But when you look it up, it'll get not weird. I'll give you a great example. A lot of times the nations will make you cringe with the way they express things. So many years ago, someone said, are we the real Jews? It's like, oh no, here we go. So the person that says it, don't freak out yet. The person that said it online has a source. I'm like, okay, there we go. So it ended up being a Gemara from Megillah. Tosfos. So I looked it up. Let's see if I can find it. If I don't find the exact page on the spot, I'll pull a ball pen. So it was talking about Daniel and the guys in the lion's den, right? You all know the story? So they were from basically more or less Shevet Yehuda, you would say, correct? So we know that at Purim time, the Jewish people became known as Yehudim, correct? So I forget what page the Gemara is on, but I will find it if I have to. The bottom line is, there's a Tosfos on Megillah. It's right around 14, 15, 16-ish. And it says, why were they called Yehudim? The term Yehudim is what you call someone who renounces Avodah Zarah was called a Yehudi. Right? And Lav Dafka, like Shevet Yehuda. It's what they were called. Someone who doesn't do Avodah Zarah is called a Yehudi. So before Sinai, before there was a Yehuda, there were Yehudim who rejected Avodah Zarah. So therefore, the non-Jew was asking, are they then called Yehudim? The answer is no. We're not going to call them that. But I saw a great parish from the Rashash. Esav's wife was called Yehudis, right? And why was she called Yehudis? Because she was one of those people who rejected Avodah Zarah. Then when she got up with Esav, she became like a type of mumar. She went against the rejection of Avodah Zarah, went back to Avodah Zarah, and that's why Yitzchak and Rivka were upset at Esav, because they went back on the Yehudi status. Lamaisa, it's a Gemara in the Tosfos. I don't know where it is, right in front of me right now. Look inside. It's in the teens, right, middle teens. If I can find it afterwards. So the term Yehudim, or Yehudi, was someone who renounced Avodah Zarah. So again, the answer wasn't exactly yes, but the concept was real. We're not going to go calling these people Jews. No. But is the concept true? Yeah, the concept is true. And you can make a very svara muchrach that we are called Jews because the whole thing with Mordechai did not bow down to Haman. We are not Ovdei Avodah Zarah. We reject it. Any other questions? I'm going to keep looking for the Gemara. Anyone have a question for these guys? That's it? Yeah, good.
Yeah. How did you becoming a Noahide affect this? What effect did it have on the people? The people who were close with the people around you, like your friends and family, and you were a Christian, you were a practicing Christian, and people who knew you from those circles. Like how do they view you now, or what's their relationship with you now?
Well, once we got past me going insane and been, in unbelief, it was devastating. It was devastating. The kids were older and they didn't know what was going on. Parents didn't know what's going on. What? You gonna have Christmas? And not coming over. What are you gonna do with that? Easter? No, you ain't making it to Easter. 4th of July, I'll tell you. But anything else? So it was devastating. It caused so much strife. It caused a lot of anguish. On the hindsight, I wish I would have been wiser to mitigate some of that pain and suffering that everybody went through. But I knew that personally, Jacques may have a little different take, but I knew that if I compromised 1 ounce, I would lose this thing I was getting. Because I knew it was real, I knew it was something that was true, and I knew that my grasp on it was fragile. And me and my wife, we couldn't compromise. And now, about 17 years later, they have a lot more tolerance for us. And we also have a lot more tolerance for them. But we still keep, very separated lives. Last Hanukkah was the first holiday outside of Thanksgiving that we had all of the kids in the house at one time in 17 years. They've done grown up. They done have grandkids. We have grandkids. This is the first time where they kind of accepted coming in and just observing some a festive meal during Hanukkah. This as simple as that was. So that was a big thing. But yeah, Jacques has probably got a lot of the same stories.
Some of the things the family went through, that it was hard for them to accept what we're doing. And they thought they would say, lost our salvation. But we just pushed through, and like Russell said, we didn't compromise. So when it came to those festivals which they kept, we didn't go. Now, a few years later, they actually also kind of accept it. They don't even invite us anymore, so it's fine. But we still go and see them. We have a relationship.
Also, talk about how easy it is to lose, like Russell's saying, to lose, like the Ger T, because it's so complex. It's like when you.
Yeah, you got to actually stay in it. To keep it, you got to stay in it. If you don't stay in it, you lose it.
You know how when you guys are in the middle of a sugya and you got the whole sugya in your mind, and then you're afraid that if you stop learning, it's going to all go away.
Yeah.
We live with that constantly,
So
right?
You got to find yourself a homepage. So my homepage is
Versus Ray.
1421, and I always go back to that.
Would you say that that your endeavors are in any way similar to like the Koreans who are trying to learn like the Talmud?
No, from my understanding of what the Koreans are doing, they see the wisdom in the Jewish teachings, and we obviously see that, but we're not focused on that. We're focused on the spirituality of the Jewish teaching. How that's connecting us to the Creator? How is that connecting us to His creation? How is this wisdom?
Again, he's going to look at the Torah differently than you. You're going to Rashi first move. He's not. So he's going to look at the pasuk and ask the question. He doesn't, as he says, he doesn't know not to. So when I hear it, my job is to hear the question, and then be bold enough to look it up. First question I got asked years ago was, can we keep Shabbos? Again, who doesn't know Goy keep Shabbos is Chayav Misa? But where it started for me was I at least looked it up. I never saw it inside. I know the party line, I don't know. I got to the Rambam and found it. But then there was the Ger Toshav Shabbos. So we're saying, we know your 1A move. It's going to be go to look at Rashi. A Goy keep Shabbos is Chayav Misa. There's no Ger Toshav today. I call those party lines. And we all know them, correct? But there's always a 1B. We're not talking majority minority. We're just saying, did you ever think, okay, beyond Rashi, there's an Onkelos? Beyond Rashi, there's Orach Chaim? Right? There's always more to the sugya. And what they don't even know they're doing is they're asking you like the non-Rashi pshat. They don't know they're doing that. So everyone's going to go look at Rashi and say no. And what they're kind of asking rhetorically, can you look beyond Rashi for me? And when you do, you'll find out there's a whole Masorah out there. A huge Torah, and we are accustomed to looking at very small part. Again, the guys who go to my shir know that I have already incorporated a lot of Sfarim that you're not used to. Right? How many guys learn Sifri? Rashi will quote Sifri. Did you look it up? Sifri is a strong basis in the chain of halacha. A lot of times, the Sifri answer will be the halacha. Right? Rashi copies and pastes from Sifri. There's just a lot of Sfarim and a lot of Masorah that we don't think to go to. And what they do is they challenge us to go there. And in a friendly way, not like he's pointing a gun to my head. Just, if you hear the question and you're genuinely interested in, is there a source for this? Does it make sense? And you allow yourself to hear it, just like those guys in the Temple Mount today. They were adamant. There's no Ger Toshav because it's not Zman Yovanoyeg. In the end, they were singing, dancing, doing the Kabbalah. Right? That every day you'll find it if you look. Is that it? Yeah.
This is just a side question. Is the beard a religious thing or it's cultural?
Well, I've always had a beard, and but it was I kind of let it grow out a little bit longer and other things. When we were learning just some of the teachings about the beard and that I wanted to connect to, as far as having the wisdom of the head connected to the heart. And these things that within the Jewish people, it helps you keep your focus and your mind. It works the same way in the non-Jewish world. It makes me think every time I think of this beard, I think that of those things and
wisdom is wisdom.
yeah, it's just wisdom. So everything that works, that's going to work, that the sages have developed for y'all, that y'all share with, it works with the world. And it's going to work a little different. It's going to look a little different. We're not going to think about it in the same way exactly that you're thinking about it or whatever. But
Russell has noticed from observation that a huge distinguishing feature between a Ben Noach and a Ger Toshav. Now, this is not Emes Messina, and it's not a perfect law, but a good portion of them will eat pig, and those that don't eat pig kind of like get it. It's just if you're accustomed to eating on that level, think about the greater picture of what you're into, right? If I say, "Hey guys, sorry I was late. I just got back from Las Vegas. Man, I was gambling the whole week." What was that going to say? But think about where I was if I'm saying that, right? Think about the things I could have been doing. But if I said not that, then that's not what I was doing. So the guy who's sitting there eating pig, he's got a lifestyle of that. And the guy who doesn't eat pig, like Russell said, he's at least mindful of what he's doing. That's already a huge difference. Spiritually speaking, are you mindful or not mindful?
we had a teacher in Texas, a Jewish man, works with Rabbi Chaim Korfin, great teacher, and he taught the non-Jews Torah for 25 years. And he made a statement to where it really brings this on, because he said, in 25 years, I've known the one that would just at least eat clean, not kosher, but just eat clean, would get Torah, and the ones that wouldn't could never get. That's over a 25-year survey of non-Jewish people and trying to learn Torah and their dietary habits and how that dietary habits affected their learning. And that's pretty huge. And we didn't know not to stop eating pork. We read it, it said don't eat the pork. We don't eat the pork. But we didn't know that was opening up our minds. And that was basically repairing our wisdom to be turned into knowledge and doing it. So we didn't realize that was happening, and that the Torah and the sages and stuff taught those things. We just read it, simple in there. We're going to do Torah, don't eat the pig. But those that have a self-motivated, willful, I know people that they're not going to give up their Torah. Right? They didn't make it all the way with us. They're not still with us. They fell out. So when Hashem put these commandments in here and telling you what to do and how to work these things, there is a supreme wisdom behind it that works in the world. This wisdom works. We don't realize that wisdom is working in the nations. We're just now coming to this realization of it.
So when a Muslim doesn't eat pig, he's doing it because the Quran told him. That's a heretical Noahide. A false religion told him that. When a Ger Toshav does it, let's say chooses to not eat pig or to eat clean, as Russell would say, he's doing it in the prescribed way. Right? The Torah has a path. Religion came about because they just didn't want to stick to the kosher path. They say, we're better than Jews, or we're the new Israel. Ger Toshav doesn't say that. So there a lot of religion has elements of truth. We know that. I mean, they do believe in God, right? One God in Islam. But they call it by a different name. It comes out as a different worship. It's a different God in terms of the Shituf, right? But
What's a Shituf?
Believing in names of God that are not like holy and pure, like Yud Kei Vav Kei. But a Ger Toshav, does he believe in Yud Kei Vav Kei? Shem Hashem, God of Israel. Yeah. Read Rashi and the Shema. Now we will read Rashi, right? Read Rashi and the Shema and Dvarim. And it says, in the future days, the nations will call out the name of God. And there's a lot of psukim. If you ever read Sfania 3:9, right, I'll turn the nations into a pure tongue. And they will say, on that day, God is one, his name is one. The Nevi'im are filled with these nevuahs. And a non-Jew can connect to these things. The trick is to not do it through false religion. Do it through truth. And they're doing it. I can't find that Toystus. You're going to have to find it yourself.
You're not going to stop looking for it.
Any other questions? What time is it? Oh, wait. What time is it?
6:40.
All right, cool.
Is there anything you find challenging about Judaism?
Saying the words right.
Pronunciation?
Yeah.
One of them, but besides that, the discipline of it. I mean, to keep everything so meticulously and perfectly, and be so mindful of it all the time. If you're raised up in it, it's natural to you. When you come out of it, I'm sure Baal Teshuvas have go through the same thing, or converts. But when you try to connect into that, it's mind blowing. To pray 3 times a day, no matter what's going on. There'll be some, things happening in your life, you're working, whatever's going on. Y'all find this time to separate out, and it comes natural to you. Try to do that into the nations, and man, you just have no idea the problems and the things that will come into it to bring that up. So that, if you're talking about challenge, what y'all do as your culture, as something that comes naturally to you, that is so incredibly difficult for the nations to even grasp how to do any of that, to keep all of the things, to keep everything straight. So that's what it is.
When they come out, where are they going to go? Chabad.org. No offense. When I came out of my Nourishkeit, right, and did Tshuva, I went to the Tells Kollel on Cedar Green in Cleveland, right? I mean, we have infrastructure. You can get a Baal Tshuva can be, out of his secular life and into Yeshiva, off to Eretz Yisrael, chick-chock, plugged in. The non-Jew doesn't have any of that, none. So we have thousands and thousands of years of a head start and infrastructure to do the discipline that Russell's talking about. They have none. And not only that, they're leaving behind the infrastructure they had. So that's why now it's such an important time, because just like when Zionism started, they had to build a whole country, and they did. The goal at hand is to recognize what's going on in the world and to start building the infrastructure. And I'm not talking about making a new religion. That is forbidden by the laws of Noach. Just to be, like, as cliche as it sounds, light to nations. Because every Jew knows one of these guys. All over the world. You're going to know, you're always going to think about, oh yeah, there was that one non-Jew who used to always ask me about the God of Israel, and I didn't know what he was talking about. I remember being a kid in Ohio, and they'd say, what tribe are you from? Like, what are you talking about? Tribe? And I didn't know until I was like in my teens that I was from the tribe of Cohen. That's how I was taught. My brother told me, we're the tribe of Cohen. Like, then it was like, someone said, no, it's Levi. Like, no, my brother told me we're the tribe of Cohen. So, I mean, by the time we figure it out, but we have these things in our lives and a way to find it out. They don't, but they naturally are interested from the Bible or what they've heard, and they're going to be asking the Jews all kinds of questions. And just knowing the answers to a different kind of question, like I'm sure, how many times, has anybody even asked what tribe you're from? Yeah. Yeah, so it happens. And there's all kinds of the questions, when you involve yourself with the nations, the questions never stop. Those kinds of questions. Then you start to think, like, man, that's actually a pretty decent question. I remember asking my Rosh Yeshiva, like when I was a brand new bacher, I said, I was always the guy in the Gemara shir that would say, like, what does the mean? Like, it's like, that's like the contract. What does the mean? And they're like, oh man, he doesn't know the word the. Like, okay, genius, which contract? What the contract? Is it that contract? Is it that contract? So I said to the Rosh Yeshiva, I said, what is challah? And they all like groan, like, what do you mean? Like, no, it's just bread. Why do we call it challah? It's bread. And I realized it was from, take out the challah, right? Why is it called challah? So there's a billion of those things that we just take for granted in Judaism and in Torah Judaism that we either don't know the answer or we never thought about it, and they're asking those questions. Why do you wear a yarmulke on your head? What is the reason why you wear a yarmulke? Why? Anyone know? Yeah?
To remind us of God's presence.
How do you say that in Hebrew? Shechina. Right. So that's like actually in the halacha. How many Jews know that? How many Jews walk? Okay, some do. Obviously, some do. But a lot don't. How many Jews out there in the world even know what the word Shechina means? Right? So there's a whole Torah that we are, like, how they say your brain operates on like 3% efficiency, right? Or whatever it is. There's a huge Torah. And we are just accustomed to a small part, some more than others. Right? A Talmud Chacham has obviously much more. But the Torah is accessible and available. It's there for you. It was given to you. Right? Every morning you say Hashem, Notein Torah, right? God gives the Torah to Israel. That's like the reality. So it's accessible. They don't have that. They can't go and Waco and say, hey, why do you think the Jews wear a yarmulke? Don't have it. You can go to Yeshiva and you can ask for Bayam. You're connected. You can go anywhere in Judaism and do anything. So it's a big bracha.
We didn't even realize, we thought we were the only people in the entire world that was thinking like this. We had no idea. And of course there's a story of how the emails got mixed up with Rob Schwartz over here in Israel. And this whole email deal got between two Jews over here in Israel.
What was your email address?
My email is, because back then it was B'nai Noach, whatever it was, and...
No, underscore?
Yeah, B'nai
Noach_.org or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And Rav Schwartz, who's like the Gadol of B'nai Noach, was the same thing but a dash.
Right.
So Russell got all the emails from Rav Schwartz.
Somebody was sending him the wrong things. And I didn't even know what a Rob was. I thought it was his first name. Who is this Rob that he's trying to email? I don't know who Rob is, And so, but in it was when they sent pictures, they had a banner of, and behind that banner it says, B'nai Noach High Council 2000 whatever, and it had all the Jewish people in there. And so I emailed them back and I said, look, I'm not Rob Schwartz, and he's not getting your emails, but I am a B'nai Noach, and I want to know what's going on. There's there's someone else out there. And so they connected me to somebody that knew Rabbi Richmond, and come to find out that there's probably hundreds of us in Texas. I lived 45 minutes from Vendel Jones, the founder of the whole thing, the whole movement, and we thought we were the only ones that ever thought of this, that ever came up with it, that ever done anything like this. And Vendel Jones was 45 minutes. I mean, all types of people all around us were going on, and it was the first Havdalah, I think, was the first, and just seeing that Havdalah, just that Havdalah service, I got. And I told him later on in years, I said, that one $100 service, you taught me everything you could teach me. Because it wasn't till then that I seen holiness. I went for that $100 service. And I got it. And so that's how getting connected and being accessible and being Jewish.
Found it.
Nothing,
13a. McGee, I remember it being on this page. It's on this page. Kol ha'kaifer b'avodah zara nikra Yehudi. Shneimar It's Aramaic from Sefer Daniel. So Al Shem Yehudi Shahari Amar Bechelik in Sanhedrin, the Lo Havim was Shevet Yehuda. They were not from Shevet Yehuda. They were Yehudim who rejected Avodah Zarah. We got to run probably pretty soon. So any other questions before we wrap up? Is that it?